What's happening, podcasters? My name's Sebastian Rusk, and I help marketers and entrepreneurs just like you launch successful podcasts. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to start a podcast for beginners in the year 2020. You could be watching this in the year 2024, but we're filming this at the end of 2019. So going into 2020, I want to make sure every podcasting beginner has everything they need in order to start their podcast. Let's get started. Okay, tip number one. I've said it before and I will say it again. If you're just now starting a podcast or you've started it but it's been kind of on the back burner, I encourage you to explore the option of either starting or restarting your podcast with the Anchor app, anchor.fm. You can use it on your desktop, you can use it on your phone. I say it over and over and over again. Anchor does not pay me for these videos yet, but I am a huge fan of Anchor. I have one of my shows, the Roll Call Podcast, on Anchor. It's just literally a drag and drop, put your episode together, post it, it distributes it out to the podcast universes. Trust me on that one. And it's free. Free is a great price. If you're just getting started, anchor.fm is your solution. Trust me on this one. If you've got a podcast with Anchor already, drop a comment below. I want to check it out. All right, tip number two, be a guest on other people's podcasts. So whatever your podcast is about, whatever you're an expert about, whatever you provide value for, whatever you've built your community or want to build your community around, seek out other people that are within your vertical that you can add value by being a guest on their show. Couple things happen when you do that. Number one, you're exposing your brand even more and yourself even more and becoming that much more of the go-to source for what you do by being on other podcasts and providing value on those shows. Now, 9 times out of 10, if it's a good podcast and a good podcast host, they're going to say, hey, Sebastian, where can our listeners connect with you? Where can they follow you? Where can they listen to your podcast? And you're going to be able to plug. And it doesn't sound tacky because the host of the show, you're the guest on the show. They want to know where to find you. Great way to market yourself and your show. Okay, tip number 3. If you already have a catalog of videos, I don't care if it's 10 videos, 5 videos, 20 videos, 100 videos, 150 videos. If you've been creating video content, valuable video content about what you do and how you do it and what your industry and what your niche is all about, if you've been creating videos and they're at least, I would say, 6 to 20 minutes long, if not longer, then what you can do is take those videos and pull the audio off of them and repurpose them into podcast episodes. Great way to launch a podcast with content that already exists. Not just a hat rack. Okay, so you don't have a video catalog. Well, maybe you can start one. Start shooting a video once a week that's at least 7 minutes long, 7 to 30 minutes long. 30 minutes a little bit long, but 7 to, I'd say, 20, 25 minutes. Then what you do when you're done shooting the video is you just pull the audio from it and turn it into a podcast episode. What I like to do for the Roll Call podcast is I'll go live on Facebook, either from my phone or from my microphone here in my home studio. And what I'll do is after I'm done going live, I'll take the archive video and I'll pull the audio from it, put my intro on it, put my outro, I'll do a little bumper. Hey, on this episode, I went live, I talked about this, that, and the other. So it's a very easy way to get a podcast episode cranked out without having to stop and go, what am I going to talk about now? So if you got video, great. If you don't, start doing video. Facebook Live is a great way to do that. Take the archive, post it on YouTube, transcribe it, turn it into a blog post. That's another video. But I think you're picking up what I'm putting down here. You being able to repurpose your content not only allows you to streamline the process, but saves you some time too, and also gets that content that used to live on YouTube now into the podcast universe. Is very important. Okay, my fourth and final tip here for beginners just starting a podcast. You have to market your podcast. One of the most innovative, creative ways to be able to do that is to create what we call an audiogram. You're seeing it pop up on the screen here. You've seen them on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. They're essentially a static image with audio placed behind them. So they're created as a video per se. They've been conveniently named an audiogram. Usually you'll take the album art from your podcast, whatever your image is for your podcast. You can throw that into iMovie. Take a minute clip, 60-second clip from the podcast episode, throw it on top of the image in iMovie, save it as a movie, and boom, you got an audiogram. Or you can use apps like Headliner.app. It's like $13 a month. You can create videos. It puts your logo and title of the video on top, you in the video, and then it puts subtitles and captions below. So if people aren't listening to the video, they can actually read what's going on. Great way to market your podcast, especially if you're teasing an episode just drops. You can post that on Instagram, tell people to check out the link in your bio in order to listen to it. If you post it on Facebook, well, then you can provide them with a link to listen to the entire episode too. But it's a great way to market your podcast with an audiogram. So headliner.app or bust out iMovie. Take your album art, drag it in there, take a 60-second clip of says something relevant about that actual episode, throw it in there, create a 1-minute movie, and boom, you've got an audiogram. Headliner app will let you do some other creative things like put the little squiggly lines in and some other, links and icons and whatnot, make it really look very appealing as far as, I want to go listen to that episode. Well, I hope you're leaving this video knowing at least one or two things that you didn't know before you press play about tips for starting a podcast if you're a beginner. Hey, if you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That allows you to get nifty updates every time a new episode drops. Just make sure you click the bell right next to the subscribe button to get those updates. Any questions about these tips I've covered or anything pertaining to podcasting, anything I've ever talked about on this channel pertaining to the podcast universe, please leave a comment below. I do respond to each and every one of you lovely people. It is my distinct pleasure. We'll see you next time.